do want to welcome you to this webinar for our MS in Leadership and Organizational Dynamics program. My name is Craig Gomolka. I'm the business recruiter here at the School of Management. I work with all of our graduate and undergraduate students. And I also have with us Professor Tom Hemphill, who is integral in introducing this program to our students and certainly teaches a couple of classes in this program as well too. And I will let him introduce himself and then we'll get started.
Good afternoon. I hope your weather is as nice as mine today, and I'm still amazed if you're in Michigan that we've had so many nice days of sunshine, because I thought it was just going to be raining constantly when I was in July. So please enjoy.
All right, we'll get started here. I'm going to start off by talking about the University of Michigan itself. 3 campuses within the University of Michigan. So Ann Arbor being the flagship of the university, Dearborn, and then certainly we have our Flint campus. Now, when we look at different leadership programs across the campuses, you're going to see, different structures to programs, different admission standards, different costs. And actually, Dearborn doesn't even have a leadership program. Certainly, Ann Arbor does, and then we do as well too. So there's definitely going to be some differences between our programs. But no matter what campus you attend, you're going to get that great University of Michigan education. Degrees and diplomas are all going to be issued by the University of Michigan. And that's why students attend our great campus. We tend to have outstanding costs for our programs, and certainly that University of Michigan education and that great diploma that you can hang on your wall. All the campuses at Michigan, their business schools, are accredited by AACSB International, and it's the top accrediting body for business schools around the world. And I'm going to bring up Professor Hemphill into this. Professor Hemphill, why do you think AACSB is so important for students to look at and understand what it means for them?
Well, there are 4 different accrediting organizations around the world, and the AACSB accreditation is considered to be the premier accreditor. Approximately 6% of business schools get the accreditation. The requirements, and I'm unfortunately or unfortunately, I'm aware of what's required. It will require the institution to have a specific set number or percentage of PhDs, also PhD faculty that are from business schools. So for example, AACSB requires 75% of all our faculty to have PhDs from business schools. The other up to 25% can come from engineering schools, College of Arts and Sciences, but overwhelmingly, you have to be coming from business schools. We certainly meet that requirement and exceed it. Also, there's research requirements for us. We have to stay academically qualified, and that requires usually, oftentimes, at least 2 publications in academically reviewed or scholarly journals every 5 years. By doing that, we stay abreast of what's going on in the business world, what's going on in our specific disciplines. Our faculty, in general, are actually very accomplished scholars, and every year we put out our booklet, which is a review of what we've done here in the business school. And Craig is well aware of that. And there's a long listing of where we've published and by faculty name. So that is available. And we have been accredited for, I don't know, 30 years, I guess.
Very long time.
Very long time. So we continue our accreditation, and we're going through it right now. As you can see, 874, about 5%, 874 out of 16,000. So.
Yeah, so we're very proud of the accreditation. And like I said, I think it really pays off for our students that certainly attend our graduate and undergraduate programs. Students always love rankings. So these are just some of our rankings that we've achieved over the last couple of years. So we're very proud of the things that we've achieved here in our business school. So let's get into some of our program goals. These aren't certainly all the program goals that we have for our students in this program, but I thought these were some of the more important ones and more interesting ones that our students would find, again, interesting about our program. So, we come at leadership from a business perspective. It's one of the reasons we actually created this program. There's a lot of leadership programs out there. There's a lot in education, but very few in a business school. Isn't that right, Professor Hemphill? It's one of the reasons we actually started this particular program.
Yeah, you're actually right. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back here, but this was my brainchild a few years back, and Craig was involved in this from the very beginning, and we got it approved in 6 months, which was a land speed record, Craig, if I remember. I pushed this forward because I saw that most of the programs out there in colleges of arts and sciences are school of education, and precious few were out of the business school. And I wanted a program which not only emphasized the micro orientation, which a lot of these programs were strictly leadership, but also macro. This program is a balanced approach to both micro and macro theory. I'm a macro theory person. I teach strategy, organizational theory, and design, as well as strategic innovation management. We have other faculty that teach in the OBHR area for a number of courses. A colleague of mine teaches international management from primarily a macro perspective. So you will get both micro and macro perspectives exclusively from management faculty.
And I think that's one of the big differentiators in our particular program. Like you said, a lot of leadership programs will just come at it from that micro perspective, where we cover both macro and micro concepts of management throughout our whole program. So when we look at the next one, certainly we want to formulate sound theories and strategies as you kind of move through the program here. So that's going to be very important for our students. Ethical reasoning and business decisions. Certainly, we've got an entire class on business ethics coming from a leadership perspective, which we think is very important. We always want to work on communication skills for our students. You're never too old or too young to certainly improve on those communication skills, and certainly how to promote change within certain audiences as well too. And then, intercultural and diversity elements are very important to leaders, and we have to understand it. How do we use them from a strategic perspective? Professor Hemphill, anything else you want to add about any of the goals that we kind of have listed here?
Just one comment. One of the reasons I thought of instituting this program, and obviously I had to convince my fellow faculty members to buy into it, was that one of the things we're finding more recently is that the critical skills for managers in the future have been identified as creative thinking, critical thinking, communication skills, and fourth, quantitative skills. This program, and I know from my perspective, I spend time, in fact, in one of my classes discussing creativity, critical thinking, and how to apply it to innovation. And I think that those types of skills are skills for the future, and you can't get away from them. A lot of people think that specializing is the future. I'm not as convinced of that. From a management perspective, I believe that you need to be well-rounded.
And that'll lead into kind of what we're going to talk about in a couple of slides. Is going to be maybe our dual degree as well too, to kind of balance out leadership with more of those. So let's talk strictly about the leadership program to start off with. On the next slide, I'm going to actually have our dual program as well too, which we can talk about. So the program is really broken out into two functional areas. We've got our foundation courses, and then we've got our advanced courses in this particular program. You notice there's only 10 courses here. It's going to be a 30 credit hour program. 3 foundation courses, which are going to do exactly what they say. They're going to set the foundation so you can be successful in the advanced part of the program. So we've got our negotiation course, organizational behavior, and then Professor Hemphill's strategy, organizational theory, and design. Any comments on those three foundation courses for our attendees here?
The negotiations class is one of our more popular classes. Years ago, I wanted to see that inaugurated in the MBA program, and it was. I got feedback from students because one of the things I do in my graduate classes is I listen. I ask students what they're interested in, what works, what doesn't work. And that's been quite successful, and Craig knows that. Org behavior is one of a classic course that anyone studying in management should be aware of. It's a much more micro-oriented course, and my course in strategy, organizational theory, and design. Org theory is a macro-oriented perspective at the level of primarily the company itself and beyond. And I provide strategy as a component. It's maybe a third of the course, the front end. So it's a baby strategy type of class because we teach strategy classes. I teach non-market strategy, which is a component of strategic management process. I want my students in this program to get a overall sense of what strategy is. And then we go into organizational theory as a foundation, which again, from the unit is more or less the firm rather than individual or group, which is organizational behavior. So as you can see, we call these the foundations because they provide you with the base to move on to these advanced courses.
Absolutely. And we always encourage our students to try to get these in first. Sometimes it's not always possible depending on the semester you start, but certainly the sooner you can get these foundation courses into your program, the better off you're going to be. Once you complete these, we can move into the advanced courses. And there's some outstanding courses here. We start off with talent management. You want to give us, Professor Hemphill, maybe a brief synopsis of what students can expect in this particular class?
Well, I'll be very honest with you. Since this isn't a class I teach, this is, from what I understand from my colleagues on the micro-oriented side, we're looking at developing employees rather than simply hiring employees. We're looking at moving them up in the organization to benefit the organization and also benefit themselves. So it's how do we nurture management leadership, and there's a variety of techniques that are drawn from the HR and leadership disciplines. So that's about as much as I know.
No, and it's certainly a great class. We move into ethical leadership after that, and certainly ethics plays a big part in any organization in terms of leaders. So how do your decisions really affect not only your organization, but the community around you, your employees? So there's a lot of decisions that leaders can make that can have positive or negative impacts, on their organization and everything around them. So we'll cover a lot of those different topics. Advanced negotiations, as Professor Hemphill mentioned, builds off the core negotiation classes, which is one of our more popular classes. Certainly, when you start off in negotiations, you'll start off with single and then, maybe double party and move into multi-party negotiations. You blend personal and professional negotiations. And then once you get to the advanced negotiation class, you'll deal with gender in negotiations. You'll deal with more mediation as well too. So it does build on the foundation course very well as you get into that advanced course of negotiations. And then certainly strategic innovation management, which Professor Hemphill teaches. So I'll certainly let you talk about this particular class and what students can expect.
Yeah, in this class, as I alluded to before, I start with the concepts of creativity and critical thinking and how they interact. And then I try to build upon that so that we move into a project, which is called a Blue Ocean project. And I have teams look at how to incrementally improve upon certain existing businesses and products or services that they have. The students overall have liked this a lot because this is applicable once they go through this type of a simulation, that they can apply this theoretical approach to actual issues and see how to improve their existing organizations. So I've enjoyed doing this, and generally speaking, I would say the students have as well.
I'm going to throw a curveball at you here because I do get this question from students quite a bit. It's like, how does an innovation class actually fit with an overall leadership program? How would you answer that question?
I believe that in a developed economy like ours, where there's already a foundation of products that are basic in nature, you have to be able to understand that to compete in the future, you're going to have to look at different variations of products and services. You have to be able to innovate off a baseline and then compete from that base or standard. And it's intense because as Americans, we look to choices, a variety of choices, different products and services. So I don't see how at this point, this isn't, in fact, from a leadership vantage point, this isn't how you should be approaching your organizations.
Oh, absolutely. The next class we have is Leading Organizational Change. This builds off our organizational behavior course. It's really kind of a change management course. How do you change cultures within organizations? How do you get people to change, even though for most people, change isn't really what they want. They want to keep the status quo. So leading organizational change will cover a lot of those topics. We've got leadership in organizations. Professor Hemphill, any thoughts on the MGT 549 course?
Well, this to me is, if I had to choose a core course advanced, this is definitely it. Our program is a leadership program. You will take a look at and immerse yourself in what we consider the various leadership models that organizations operate under. There's actually one leadership model called ethical leadership. We think, of course, that ethics is important enough that we pull that out of leadership and emphasize the ethical leadership because of its impact on decision making. But you will become very familiar with the various leadership models, the pros and cons, and how to apply those leadership models to your specific organization. And hopefully will give you insight into what, how it works in your organization, and most importantly, as you move forward and are entering other organizations.
And certainly our last one is going to be international management. You mentioned one of your colleagues certainly teaches this particular course, Dr. Kelly. Any thoughts on, certainly being in a global environment, how important international management is to a leadership program?
Yeah, this course is not an international business course, which we also have. This is has both a micro and macro orientation. And today we are receiving products and services and people coming in from all over the world. So inputs, outputs are occurring, and how to manage those and facilitate those types of processes are, I think, critical.
So those are our 10 courses in the program. I mentioned 30 credit hours, so each course is 3 credits. This program does require 2 years of management experience. And tell us why, Professor Hemphill, why 2 years of management experience? What does this program really do for people that have experience leading and managing people?
Well, we want a baseline of managerial experience, because you as a student and myself as an instructor will be able to have a foundation to work on, rather than just being an employee who has minimal managerial responsibilities, meaning individuals that do things, provide and simply report on things. I mean, in a very broad sense, you're part of management, but what's the key here? Have you managed people? Because people, that's where the challenge is. That's where things get messy. at times and ambiguous. And I think what I emphasize to individuals is that management as a profession is, and if you intend to actually do it well, you need to be an individual that can deal with a level of ambiguity. You want to be able to be able to guide and manage and make difficult decisions. And I think that this 2 years of what we consider management experience, we're looking for people. What have you done with people? What have you learned? And most importantly, what can you bring to the classroom experience?
And certainly we think that by going through this program, not only are you going to become a better leader, you're going to be able to help your organization, you're going to be able to help your department, and certainly become a better leader when discussing things with individuals on a one-on-one level too. So going from, one person all the way up to the organizational level as well too. That's our goal for students in this program. Now, you did mention, if students don't have, let's say, that necessary 2 years of experience, we have got a great program. It's our MBA program with a focus in organizational leadership as well, too. And we kind of blend those programs together for our dual program. So with our dual program, not only do you get the leadership degree, but you get the MBA as well, too. And the benefit to the dual degree is you're actually able to take 5 courses and count them towards that second degree. So let's say the leadership is your #1 priority. You can actually earn the MBA, which is traditionally a 15-course program, for 10 courses, because we're going to take 5 of those that you've taken in the leadership program and count them towards the MBA program. Set up very similarly, we've got foundation courses. You'll see some familiar courses here. We've got accounting, we've got economics. You can see the org behavior, the strategy, organizational theory and design. And then we've got applied quantitative analysis as well too. So our analytics course. You've got our core classes as well too. So finance, global dimensions is our international business course. Then we run through the leadership courses of talent management, ethical leadership, strategic innovation management, the international management course. We get back to one of the MBA courses, which is information systems. We've got Professor Hemphill, one of his MBA courses, which he mentioned is non-market strategy. We've got our negotiation course, which is one of those crossover courses from the leadership program. Our capstone MBA course, which is strategic management, marketing, and then our operations and supply chain management course. So you'll see 12 courses within the core. And then we've got our concentration in organizational leadership from the MBA program, which are all taken from our MS in leadership. So you'll see the advanced negotiation course, leading organizational change, and then leadership in organizations. So one of the things that we do in the MBA program is we have course waivers for students that maybe have taken an equivalent course to something that we're teaching. So for example, if you've taken financial and managerial accounting or macro and micro econ, you may be able to waive those MBA foundation courses to reduce the number of classes needed in that particular program. And that's why you see the big variance in terms of the overall credit hours needed for the program, is some students may waive some of those foundation courses. So the dual program can really range anywhere from 45 to 60 credit hours, or 15 to 20 courses, again, based on some of those foundation course waivers. So it's a great opportunity to end up with 2 degrees, the MBA being a generalist degree, and then certainly a more specialized degree, which is our MS in leadership program. So the other advantage we give to students is, let's say you're not quite prepared for this MS in leadership program yet. You don't quite have that 2 years of management experience, but you're slowly gaining ground and you're going to be getting it pretty soon. We have the opportunity, you can apply for the MBA, select that leadership concentration. You can graduate, and then once you've achieved those 2 years of management experience, you can come back and still pick up that second degree. We're more than happy to count all the classes that you've taken in the MBA still towards that leadership degree. And really, you would only have 5 classes left to earn that MS in leadership degree after completing the MBA. So we give a lot of chances to students to kind of select the dual degrees whether it's after they graduate, right at the beginning, somewhere in the middle of their degrees. If they want to add that second degree, we're more than happy to do that. So we're pretty flexible with the opportunities to earn that dual degree. Professor Hemphill, any comments on students that do pursue the dual degree? Because you mentioned at the very beginning, we do have 12 students right now in the dual program.
Yeah, Craig, again, I think that the numbers tell us something. Students take some of our management courses. They start taking a management course or two, and they like them. They find them helpful, and it's not a hard sell because they're taking, if they start the MBA, and that's the way, Crystal, by the way, that's how it usually works. We've had, Craig would probably tell you, there's one or two that work it the other way.
Yep.
But they start taking our organizational leadership courses, and they suddenly realize that's because they chose that as a concentration. They like these courses a lot. They're very interesting. I'm not surprised. I teach in this area. I think our classes are the most interesting. All right, my bias. All right, and then they speak to other students who are taking the dual program, and they find out, well, I remember this being mentioned that there is 50% of the courses count if I'm taking the concentration in organizational leadership, and the answer is yes. So they say, well, I only am interested in taking these courses. Well, that's all they have to take. They take 5 more courses, and they come out with a dual master's.
Yeah, you're leading me right into my next topic here. So let's actually let's talk about those courses and kind of how everything is offered. So we teach this program in a very unique format. It's called our Net Plus format. It's really a hybrid format. So traditionally, this was an online and on-campus program, but obviously because of COVID, everything has gone virtual. So what we have is online asynchronous part of the program. And then what we do is a virtual part of the program, which are defined days that students have to be online so they can actually meet with the professors, get lectures, and we'll kind of talk about this a little bit more, but really get some networking involved, really interact with their fellow colleagues in the program and their professors as well too. So it tends to be a 60-40 split between online and then those synchronous sessions as well too. In most cases in this program, we offer the classes 1 time per year. The ones that cross over to the MBA, like our OB course and our negotiations course, are offered a couple times per year. So we do have a course rotation out there that shows students how all the classes are certainly offered in this particular program. For students that want to finish this program in the 20 months that we offer it, if they do 2 courses in the fall, 2 courses in the winter, 1 spring, 1 summer, and then 2 fall, 2 winter again, they'll be done in 20 months, but certainly you do not have to do that. Many of our students will take, let's say a couple classes fall, maybe they've got a busy time in the winter time, so they just want to take 1, they need a break, so they take a summer off. Certainly we have a lot of flexibility with not only in this program, but our MBA program as well too. So students can really mix up the number of classes. There's no prescribed number of classes that students have to take in a semester or even an academic year. Typically, most of our students in this program will take 4 to 6 classes per year. You will be required to take at least 1 spring and 1 summer class in this program. We offer ethical leadership in the spring. It's the only time it's offered. And we offer leading organizational change in the summer, and that's the only time it's offered. So at least 1 spring and 1 summer class will be required of all students in this particular program. Semester lengths, we follow the university calendar, so fall and winter are 15-week semesters. Spring and summer are definitely going to be more condensed. They're 7 weeks long, so they cover May and half of June, and then July and half of August. I believe today, August 18th is actually going to be our last day of finals for our summer students that are taking classes. So, the semesters move fairly quickly in the 7 weeks, but I think students do fairly well, especially with these 2 courses, because they are made for these 2 semesters in terms of the ethical leadership and then the leading organizational change. Since it's the only times they're offered, it's not like you have to worry about it taking 15 weeks and then condensing it down to 7. These 2 specific courses are built for the 7-week semesters.
We have been teaching our classes now with online residencies. Those residencies meet twice per semester, Friday, Saturday. We probably are not going back into the classroom for our residencies for this program. And we will probably finalize that shortly in the fall. If that is the case, here's how this program would be presented. And let me contrast it.
Professor Hemphill, let me stop you real quick. Let's cover that in 2 slides. We'll delve into exactly the campus sessions. Let's cover this. Let's cover this part first, and then the next slide bring up what you were going to just talk about.
Fine, Craig.
Perfect. So let's talk about kind of the asynchronous portion of this program, and certainly the classes as well too. So we utilize Blackboard, and we're rolling out Canvas this semester as well too. So what you're going to find is, certainly all your class assignments, syllabi are going to be posted there. Deadlines, meeting rooms for your group projects, which we'll certainly talk about. Tests will certainly be timed, and then we use thread discussion in terms of some of the online interaction for our students. Other courseworks that you're going to be doing, certainly independent readings, different supplemental materials that professors will provide, case studies. I mentioned the group work, which we'll talk about. It's certainly research papers as well too. Professor Hemphill, any comments on kind of the asynchronous coursework that you particularly provide in your 2 classes in this program?
Yeah, I am of the opinion that students should have both a textbook and what I refer to as a supplemental text, which is not a textbook. It's a book which, for example, is an overview and of a particular topic that's in my specific class. I will then offer discussion boards. And I usually offer anywhere from 8 to 10 during a semester, or I double up during a spring semester for a class. And I will lead by question, and the students will then respond once early in the week, Monday through Wednesday, and then they will follow up on comments made by the student in the second half. Then I respond at the end where I answer the question. And the reason I do that is because early on, I was responding to students and I suddenly shut off the discussion. And I didn't want that, because suddenly I was in my position of authority. What I said went, and that wasn't necessarily my intention, but that was the interpretation. So after that, I said, my interest is having you as students interact with each other. And then I will come back with my response to the questions I provide. I think that generally works. I will tell you this, for graduate students, the discussion boards tend to work rather well. Because of the maturity level and the interest in the subject. So, it becomes more personal, and students are interested, from what I read, in what other students are thinking. And the key here is you're going to learn from each other, right?
No, absolutely, they do. What about group work in this particular program? We pretty much have a group project in every class in the leadership program.
Yeah, in this business school, we like to use the term teams, okay? And our teams are established, and they either do projects or they will do team case analyses. I'm not into research papers. Maybe some of my colleagues are, but I don't think you're going to find many research papers in business schools. The only research papers we do are our own to publish. Most of it is going to be team projects and case analyses. And again, the readings have to do with oftentimes the discussion boards. But I could be wrong. Somebody may want to assign you a research project. That's up to them and each faculty member, or I should say a research paper. That it's their specific, it's a specific class, They have control of that particular class. So can it occur? It can, but I don't think you're going to find much of that. All right. That doesn't mean you're not writing. You are writing.
A lot of writing, yes.
Mhm.
So when we look at time commitment for these classes that you're going to be taking in this particular program, you can probably expect to put in about 6 to 9 hours of work each week for each class that you take. So when you look at 2 classes, which is typically the most you want to take in this particular program, 1, because of the setup we're going to talk about, but 2, just the overall commitment for students in this program when you're trying to balance work, family, and certainly a master's degree. 15 to 18 hours is for 2 classes, which is quite a bit of time commitment for those students, working 40, 50, 60 hours a week. So the part Professor Hemphill was alluding to earlier certainly is going to be our virtual sessions, our residency sessions, as we call them. And the goal of these sessions is typically the interaction that you get not only with your professor, but certainly with your colleagues in the classroom, whether it's online, certainly or on campus. I still call it a classroom, but that interaction with everybody. So you're going to get lectures. You'll still have some presentations. We got the group discussions and debates, and certainly networking opportunities as well too, working in group projects, working with lots of different people in the program. And these campus sessions that we do have, or excuse me, virtual sessions, they are required. So we do have dates out there for our students each semester where they do have to attend. And this is kind of the structure of it. So it's a Friday, Saturday, twice per semester. So you have a morning class, 8:30 to 12:30, afternoon class, 1:30 to 5:30, and I think Professor Hemphill will talk about this. Most of our professors aren't holding students to these 4 hours for both Friday and Saturday. Am I correct on that?
Yes. We used to hold them when you were attending in person, 3.5 to 4 hours. What we've learned online is we lose students after about after hour 2 and into hour 3. Crystal was shaking her head like, yeah. Well, that's because it's tiring to look at a screen. It's tiring to be interacting digitally and virtually, much more so than if you're sitting in a classroom. And I know because I'm also doing it. And so, for example, I'm hearing that most of our faculty are thinking in the 2 to 3 hour range. One of my colleagues basically asked the students, would you mind meeting for one day for 4 hours versus 2 days for 2 hours? And they agreed. It was a Saturday, so they didn't have to take any time off from work on Friday. That was his choice. For myself, I would start my residencies virtually at 10 a.m. and finish by no later than 12:30. Most of the students like that because on Friday they have other things to do in the morning rather than starting at 8:30. And secondly, they're awake for that particular session, and it's long enough to do what I need to do without pushing the limits. So I'm using about a 2.5 hour, and that seems to be working well for me. There was other reasons why we used the 4 hours before when we were there physically. We were operating with a 60-40 split. In fact, if we do this, and this is what I wanted to get to, I'm not convinced we're going back to physical in the seats residencies, and we're going to make that decision, I believe, shortly. I think we will continue with Zoom residencies. My students who have taken previous or been in the program and had the physical residency to show up generally liked it. But when I query students now, 2/3 to 3/4 prefer Zoom. It makes it easier. They don't have to travel in from Los Angeles or somewhere else. They can come online and they're done. They're in, they're out. There are some disadvantages to that because they mentioned social networking. We may want to work on that. But overall, that seems to be, that's the future seems to be here. I don't mind it either. I get across basically the same material, but it saves on expenses, time, and other things, yet you still have the residency. You're still interacting with me and with your fellow students. That's what the students have told me. They want the online residency. So what am I saying? We will continue with residency, but the program, I believe, will be 100% online.
Now that we mentioned kind of the residencies and everything, why don't you kind of give them an example of what you might cover on a, one of those 2.5-hour days?
Well, for example, let's take my strategic innovation management course. I have a list of readings, which I want the students to review ahead of time. And I have a list of questions attached to those readings. So we're going through those readings because one of the things I emphasize in my technology innovation class is technology is neither good nor bad, and it's dual use. So I'm not just going to discuss all the positive aspects of technological innovation. I'm going to also discuss the negative aspects, because as a manager, you need to understand where your boundaries are and how to restrain yourselves. And we get into some fascinating discussions. So I'll be leading those discussions, and the students will then provide answers and perspectives, and we'll discuss the various perspectives in the residency. So
And I was going to say, one of the reasons that we want the 2 years of experience is now students can rely upon their experiences that they've had in the past to kind of answer some of these questions relating to their organizations.
Yeah, that's true. And oftentimes that will come up because I expect them to. They'll say, I am in healthcare. How is technological innovation affecting us? How is information technology affecting us? What are the potential issues that I have to be concerned about, whether it's HIPAA or beyond HIPAA? Because the law is reactive. What happens if the laws has to catch up? So we discussed the various issues that are out there, and it could be in other industries. We have a variety of people coming from education, nonprofit, and again, auto industry, healthcare, marketing, and advertising. So it's actually quite interesting because you're not sitting in there with your colleagues specifically from your particular industry, and you can get a different perspective, which may be transferable to your particular sector or industry, and you were just not aware of it. So that's nice. And also, I want curious people in my classroom. Okay, I want people that want to learn. And that means learn about other things and things that they don't know now.
I think what you said certainly about students coming from different backgrounds and having different perspectives is one of the great things about being in a business school, where you don't necessarily need to have an undergrad degree in business to be successful. It's really great for our programs where we can bring in students from engineering and healthcare and military and education, and everybody can provide a different perspective to the exact same question. Not only now do they learn from you as a professor, but now they learn from their fellow colleagues about how to solve problems or how to think about problems from a different perspective.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And surprisingly, for those people that are doubters, by your second class, you're starting to truly understand this, and you get into your routine, and so hearing different things is not as surprising anymore, and that's an open mind.
Absolutely. Tuition's always a big question, when you're looking at master's degrees, whether that's, one degree or a dual degree. I think we've got an outstanding tuition rate for our programs. In-state tuition is $833 and 25 cents per credit hour. We just have a registration assessment each semester for our students. So when you look at the overall cost of this leadership program, I mentioned it's 30 credit hours. It's basically a $25,000 program for a University of Michigan leadership degree. So I think that's an outstanding cost. And even looking at a dual program, so an MBA and a leadership degree, ranging anywhere from $37,000 to basically $50,000 for 2 master's degrees, which again, I think is an outstanding cost for a University of Michigan education. Admission deadlines, we admit students in all 4 semesters. Our next deadline coming up is going to be our winter semester, which is going to start, I believe, January 5th. And the deadline for that is November 15th. So you'll have plenty of time right now, about 3 months to get in your applications for winter, if that's a time you're looking to start. We do spring, summer, and then certainly next fall as well too. So we have all 4 of those semesters available to apply for all of our students. Application. So I think our application is pretty straightforward as well too. We do need all official transcripts from any and all colleges that you've attended. So even if you took classes at a community college and there was just a couple classes, our graduate office still wants to see all of those transcripts. So make sure you request all those when you apply. We do require a resume. So we want to detail all your work and education experience on there. And I always tell students applying for this particular program, you want to add more information rather than less information. I know some places say, hey, keep your resume to 1 or 2 pages. You know, you want to make sure you detail out all your leadership and managerial experience on there so our leadership committee can really see all of those things that you've done within your career when we make those decisions on admission. 1-page statement of purpose. So what are your leadership goals and how will this MS in leadership program help you accomplish those goals? It's really the question that we're asking in this particular program. Really, what is this program going to do for you? And we're just looking for 1 or 2 pages about that question. 2 letters of recommendation. We do require 1 from a supervisor. Doesn't have to be a current supervisor, but somebody that has supervised you in the past. Certainly we prefer it if it comes from your current supervisor, but we know sometimes different companies have some restrictions there, but we do want 1 from a supervisor and the other could be academic or professional, completely your choice. And our online form is really nice. All you have to do is when you're completing your application, input the name, the email, and then the title of the 2 recommenders. Once you actually submit that application, the next day our grad office will send out an email to those 2 recommenders. They click on the link. There's 6 questions that we ask about you. If they know you pretty well, and hopefully they should, if they've been supervising you, or if they're one of your other recommenders, they should be able to answer those questions pretty quickly. And then all they have to do is submit it and they're done. So we typically find that this is an easier way for our recommenders to complete those letters in a reasonable amount of time. You know, sometimes letters of recommendation are difficult to write when you got to sit there and put pen to paper or type it out and you got to write a formal letter. We find this online application very easy. We have a GMAT waiver available for our students, which I will talk about in the next slide. We do require English proficiency for our international students that did not complete a degree in 100% English. And then all of our applications are pretty flexible in terms of the submission. So what you could do is, and I highly recommend it if you're looking to apply for this program, the fee waiver is going to be available for 2 weeks. So I would encourage you to at least complete the application, get it submitted, and then send in the rest of your documents at a later date. So you can send in your resume, you know, a couple weeks later, get your statement of purpose all written up. You can just email that to our grad office. And then once your application is fully completed, our grad office will review it, make sure all the documents are there, and then we'll send it to our office for review for admission to this particular program. And then all applications are good for an entire year as well too. So the other thing to know is, let's say you're thinking about the winter semester in terms of admission. You get admitted, great, you're ready to start in winter, something happens, you can't start in winter. You can actually defer your application for up to an entire year. So, you know, if you're planning on winter, but something comes up, not a problem. You could always defer that to spring or summer or even next fall. So pretty flexible in terms of everything that we have here, not only in our program, but certainly in our application process as well too. And I did mention our GMAT waiver, which is my last slide here. So due to COVID, we are waiving the GMAT for all students, and it's now through September 1st. So we've got maybe 10, 12 days left. Once September 1st passes, we'll be going back to a traditional GMAT waiver where we look at GPAs and work experience based on your undergrad and graduate degrees. But at least for the next few days, we'll be offering GMAT waivers to all students. And all you have to do is, let me know that you've submitted your application online. Let me know that you want to apply for the leadership program, and then what semester you're planning on applying for. And then I can send that GMAT waiver over to our grad office, and then we can check that box on that application. Just one less thing to worry about for our students looking at this particular program. And that is what we have for you today.